Hello, welcome, and this evening what are we talking about? Bird flu outbreak. We just want to find out if there's a cause for alarm. And since the subject of bird flu is on the table, then the subject of agriculture and agri-process and agribusiness is also on the table. Where it is, we are now as a country, why we are not tapping into this opportunity, only God knows at the moment. But let me just read justice for you. It says 24,000 birds have been killed in the latest bird flu outbreak recorded in 2 farms in Tema. Head and Acting Director of Public Health and Food Safety Division at the Veterinary Service, Dr. Bashiru Kikimoto tells Joy News the service is doing well to ensure that the outbreak does not spread throughout the district. My name is Anan Sakwao. This is PM Express. When I come back, I'm talking to Philip Abayori, President, Agric Chamber of Commerce. Don't move. Well, thank you very much for staying. And we are looking at the bird flu outbreak which broke in Tema today. 2 farms lost a total of 24,000 birds. It's nearer to Christmas. You know, some people have been saving since probably June just to buy a chicken to celebrate Christmas. And then suddenly you hear that, oh, there's bird flu. Be careful which bird you buy. How do you even know which bird has the flu and which bird hasn't got the flu? With me in the studio is Philip Abayori, who is the president of Ghana Agric Chamber of Commerce. Philip, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
But before we start the conversation, let's listen to a couple of interviews regarding this issue, and then we take off from there.
We have reported to the World Animal Health Organization of the presence of bird flu in Ghana, but the focal points of outbreaks are the various farms. We so far have actually increased in number, and we are fighting them. So that is why you are hearing about this latest one in Tema. It's just one of the focal points of the outbreak. The districts where it has happened, the district veterinary officers, the regional, the epidemiologists on the field, the public health in the field are containing the situation. So it's just like how we started all over since April. It's only that it's just a focal point of one of the outbreak sites. And I will advise Ghanaians that so far as eating chicken during Christmas is concerned, they should not be worried. Veterinary services, Minister of Food and Agriculture, the ministers, they are all concerned and everything is under control. We will make sure that no Ghanaian gets contracts this disease from the birds.
We are in the live birds market and we know exactly if this bird is with bird flu, we know. So we'll tell you the bird is not good. Likewise, we'll have the veterinary officers to also to boost their work a little bit, because they alone cannot go around to the farms. We go, there's no any farm in Ghana here that we don't know, not even to talk of backyard farms. We know all of them. And the farmers, they are our friends. So whenever they have any problem, we communicate with them.
Well, that's the story that broke today, and this is December, and you know, we have a culture where something about chicken and celebration. You big birthdays and definitely Christmas, you must have a chicken to complete your Christmas. So when you hear of bird flu stories and be careful of where to buy, your chicken, then, Philip, I come and ask you, I mean, should we be concerned?
No, I can tell you that this is a production issue, and diseases such as bird flu, coccidio, there are various diseases that affect livestock and poultry and animals in general. And we have a very vibrant veterinary services in Ghana. And these are containable diseases, because you could see the poultry, they are in an enclosed place. So when an outbreak happens, they go there, the place is fumigated, and everything is, destroyed. In terms of live birds trade, we have the live bird associations that are across the country, and they also trade. They sell, they have customers. So they are very conscious. I've spoken to many of them, and if they come to your farm and they realize that there's a problem, they will tell you, and they will not buy the bird because they are going to invest their money and they will lose their money. So there are intermediaries. It's not a farmer himself carrying the birds to the market where perhaps he realized that he has bird flu, he may still want to make money. Somebody else will buy the birds and trade. And that trader will not move any bird flu birds to the market because they will die, he will have a loss. Okay. So you are guaranteed to eat your Christmas chicken without any problem because those involved in it are using money and they will not want to lose money. They are also, the farmers themselves are conscious of their own lives and then also conscious of their customers' life. Because if anything happens and then it affects a customer, then, you lose your business. So the poultry farmers themselves, as I tell you, they are very organized and they are really serious to ensure that any outbreak, they report the outbreaks, to the veterinary officers that, look, we realize that our birds are having some difficulties. They come and check and say there's bird flu. Then they allow them to do whatever they do to destroy those birds. So I think it's not so alarming. The situation is under control.
This is the second time we're hearing this news this year.
Yeah, as I told you, definitely when a disease appears in a particular part of the world, it happens everywhere. It takes some time for it at least to be eradicated. And time after time, it will appear in another place. And as it goes on, then total eradication will come. And it's not so serious that you should be afraid of eating any poultry and etc.
The last time, there was a ban of movement of live poultry for a while. Then we were told it was okay because there was a 21-day incubation period. Yeah. That's gone. So we were happy that we're not going to hear. So where has this come from?
As a disease, some of these diseases are airborne, and some are, kind of contamination of various. It can be from feed, it can be from anywhere. They need to. Once the veterinary people go in there, they will be able to know where this disease came from. And as I told you, there was a ban, as you said, but they realized that the situation is not alarming, so the ban has been lifted. And I've already told you that there's a very vibrant live bird association across the country, and they are very good. They know what they are doing exactly. They are sending these birds to sell to customers. The customer interest is very paramount because if the customer loses confidence, then they lose his business. The poultry farmers themselves report that, look, my birds have a problem, and they go to the veterinary. And so based on this analysis, I think that it's safe for you to go ahead and then buy your chicken, and I don't think there's a problem at all.
Well, since I have you here, Ghana Agric Chamber of Commerce, Agric is a major issue. So I want us to start with the deficit between how much live birds we produce and how much live bird, we import. What is it that is so difficult that we are unable to either close the gap or have enough birds to, satisfy our needs?
You see, when it comes to poultry, Ghana started commercial poultry production in 1952. And between 1952 to 53, we imported 11,466 birds. And these birds were imported from Denmark.
That's a history lesson for us today.
Then in 1959, 121,000 birds were also imported, and those are the day-old chicks. And then there were also local hatcheries, which also had 100,000. So the poultry industry started growing from this background. By 1967, we had 973,000 output of birds that we could have. At that time you realize that we were about almost 2 million. Yeah, but looking at the statistics, you realize that we were able to produce so much. By 1971, government had its own hatchery, Pomazi. If you hear of Pomazi at the central region, which was doing 12 million day-old chicks a year. 12 million. And apart from that, other local hatcheries too got involved. So we were so self-sufficient within that time to 1986 and between 83, we had enough of our own poultry needs.
When did Akoko Foto come in the picture?
I'm giving you...
Oh, we're getting there. Good.
Yeah. And you know, poultry drives on carbohydrates and protein and other additives. So maize is one of the 70% of what poultry consume. And then you have not less than about almost 15% of, other adjectives like protein. Let's say 20% protein and the rest are other adjectives. So at the end of the day, you need to have enough maize to be able to feed so much poultry. So between 1983, because of the drought and etc., we had some difficulties. Maize prices started escalating and things went a little down a bit. We continued till at least the end of up to 1990. Then the whole system started dropping because Akoko Foto started coming. The imported chicken started coming because of the difficulties of price hikes of the feed and then local maize. So importation of dressed chicken and etc. started coming in. And the reason too being that at that time, between 1985 and 1986, there was this economic recovery program and the structural adjustment program. And that enjoins government at that particular time to come out from doing business. So like the poultry hatchery that they have 12 million chicken, government have to go out and allow private people to take over. There were also feed mills, 11 feed mills, which were doing about almost 210,000 tons per month. So it means that the capacity to feed the chickens too became very, localized. So, but within the ERP and the structural adjustment program within the 85, 86, what came about is that government don't have, this is a private sector activity, so for that reason, government should come out from it and allow private sector to take over. But the transfer was not smooth, so we did not transfer these things fully, and it wasn't also on a PPP basis. What we should have done immediately is that it should have been a public partnership so that government should have raised shares and people will buy the shares locally and then it becomes a private or public company. But we allow some of these things to decay. Government just went out and created a divestiture implementation program, indicating that if we are interested, you come and buy the asset and then use it for what it is. Yes, people went and bought some of the assets and then they use it for a different thing. So we lost so much of the assets that were for food. Let's say, post-harvest systems, some of the factories and etc. that was doing all this. So that is our history. So now private people now have to start on their own. You have Daku farms, I think you know the history. A lot of them have to start off from scratch and then push to get poultry. And poultry too, it came up in the 90s again, they were so famous. But then when the importation, the trade liberalization out of these programs that we did came up, we then had to compete with foreign chicken, which perhaps the production is subsidized, whilst we were not now getting the subsidies because the ERP and economic structural adjustment removed the subsidies. So our cost of production became very high. Our chicken price became very high to the customer. So they prefer to buy the imported chicken. Then our capacity to process too became weak because the state was having the equipment and we're having access. Small outgrowers could grow chicken and it could be processed in a big state mill, in a state processing facility. The distribution of the carcass too was there. In some cases GNTC was there. We had Ghana Food Distribution. There were that. So the platforms to sell was there. The state itself, like prisons and other, they were also buying the local chicken and etc. So when these issues came up, that definitely there's no capacity to process again. Farmers now have to produce live birds and sell them live. And the imported birds are packed, killed and packed very well. So then the issue of people, everybody going to work, taking your children to school, you come back very early, convenient of the consumer came in. To see that if I buy the imported chicken, I just go, I cut it, I put it in my microwave or my rice cooker. It's not now that I have to cut a chicken, it will be making noise, then I'll now have to remove the feathers. So that taste for the consumer too had changed, that he wants to have everything ready in his kitchen. So it also affected the industry. though in comparison, you realize that the live poultry is more, better in quality because once it's produced locally, it's being killed fresh. So definitely you are getting what you see that is being slaughtered in front of you, and you can guarantee the quality. The others that have been freezed, you don't know when they were killed and when they were slaughtered and when they were packed, and you don't know how many years it is. So this was the issue. So we are now currently having this situation in our hands where people are forced for convenience sake to take the imported chicken than the, but in terms of assurity of quality, the local one which is produced definitely is more fresher than the one that, so these are choices that consumers have to make. But as I talk to you now, consumers have realized that the taste of the local chicken that is produced is good, and that, they believe that that is the best for them. So what needs to be done is that to find some support to boost the poultry industry is very necessary. Cost of borrowing is an issue. It adds to cost of production because in some part of the world they borrow at 3% to do what we are doing, up to 5% or 7%. They have they have 1 to 10 years, while sometimes we have only 6 months or 1 year to borrow. We don't have long-term, medium to long-term financing. If we have that in place, then our poultry farmers can get equipment, they can be able to process, they can also even freeze, they can cut to meet our needs. But we expect the poultry farmers themselves to look for private capital, and private capital, the cost of it is very high. So there's a need for something to be done to ensure that at least there's some intervention so that the cost of borrowing can reduce. We should also have funds available for long to medium to long term financing so that at least the industry can grow on its own. We can have mills that can deliver enough feed. As you look at the history I gave you, that you have 12 million day-old chicks for one industry per year. If we get up to a point that we have about almost 50 million, currently we don't have that capacity. So we are importing.
So now we can't even do the 12 million?
Not, I think 12 million now is just a drop in the ocean. I think in totality we are able to do. But now our population is more. Our consumption of chicken per day, per average is increased. So we need to be able to have the capacity.
With our consumption and our population now, what sort of numbers should we be looking at?
We should be able to have processing facility, especially like mills that could do about 1 million tons of grain, okay, every 2 months. Because definitely poultry consumes a lot. So if you look at our population, 24 million, 27 million, 25 million people, and if me and you each, that means that we eat half a chicken a day. If we do that calculation, that means that you need about 25 million, 12 million chickens a day. Okay, I know people eat a lot of chicken, so you do it not total average per year.
Yeah.
You will need not less than about 300 or 500 million chickens, a year. To feed them, you need 70% of the cost is maize. So you need a lot of maize to be able to do that. So that is what the story is. So there's a huge investment that is needed.
To go into this, is it profitable to look into the industry, or
it is very, very profitable. When you are doing eggs, you have 1,000 birds. Each day, 0.50, that's 50 pesos per egg, times 1,000. It's a lot of money per day. Now say that you have about almost 100,000 birds and you are picking 100,000 eggs. You can do the calculation at 50%. Very lucrative industry. Now we have what we call broilers. That is what it goes for meat. 6 weeks it is ready for slaughtering.
6 weeks?
6 weeks. So in the ideal situation, if we have some support, is that the poultry farmers can produce to outnumber our needs. You see, but things must be right. They cannot be producing while there's import coming in at a cheaper cost. You get the point? So we are in a free market. We talk about WTO rules, but we need to move beyond that to also have our standards that we want to set. Do we want to have chicken that is being stored for 5 years? Do we want chicken that is only slaughtered for 6 months? So that when we are putting these measures, then definitely it will help us to be able to get our poultry, because if you can't bring 5 year chicken to us, You cannot even bring 1 year. We say we agree under the law, but we only want 6 months chicken. And you know how much the 6 months chicken will be. It will be as the cost of the more than the local chicken. So in that case, if you cannot bring it, then you buy from the local farmers, because the local farmers could also, you're not going to take anybody out of business. I spoke to some people who are importing, let's say, poultry and etc. And they said, look, if they produce, we'll buy here because we'll not be paying duty. They are business people. They are Ghanaians. They know how to do the business. So they say, look, if you produce quality chicken, you have because we have a big market and you can produce so much. We are prepared to buy, but the price must be right so that we make some money. Why should we then go and import? So there are issues. So it means that we will sit down on round table with these people and then to plan very well. They can produce. It may take us 5 years, it may take us 10 years, but we can meet our demand. So that is the poultry side for you.
Staying on the poultry side, the cost of feeding always comes. Anytime I've done poultry, issue here, if I pick up the phone and call a poultry farmer, number one is going to be on the list is that the feeding cost. But is it not the same feed that wherever the chickens are coming from, aren't they eating the same corn?
Yeah, let me tell you clearly. You see, poultry is something that if it's it's done very well, it can help the economy. You see, they eat 70% carbohydrate. That means that maize farmers have a market. Okay? So all we need to do is that to have efficient production so that we ensure that the maize farmer is getting good yields. So if the maize farmer is getting the appropriate yields, and doing the right thing and then getting the support, the cost of the maize will be stable. So maize price will not escalate within five times within the year, so that the farmer made his budget to buy 25 kilos or 50 kilos of maize at 50 cedis. Then at the end of the year, he's buying at 100 cedis. The cost of the chicken will be higher than whatever is imported. So this needs to be done. So once you have a plan to produce so much poultry, you can have that also triggers the production. So you have maize farmers in gainful employment, then you have poultry, and you can also operating. So as soybean, because the 20% of protein will come from soybean. Sometimes it's fish meal, but we have a deficit in our fish needs, so we can use soybean. So you're going to have farmers producing maize, farmers producing soybean, and poultry farmers. And this is going to generate a lot of people having employment, and then also ensuring that at least there is enough food security, because the maize that is produced for local consumption, what is ideally for poultry is yellow maize, which we don't consume. If you produce, we use white maize currently to feed the poultry, but ideally it should have been yellow maize, because we are competing with the poultry for the maize. So that is why the prices locally here keep on escalating, and when the poultry farmers do their budget, the changes come. But if we go into yellow maize, large yellow maize production, then poultry has its feed, which we are not going to disturb that feed. So it comes from planning.
Why don't we plant the yellow maize?
Oh, it's not in commercial quantity, but as I told you, if there is a guarantee that maize farmers are going to produce maize, and then the poultry farmers really have that skill to be able to buy the maize, and it's a finance issue, as I said, because the poultry farmers they say they can go and borrow 35%, 36% to do their poultry, and then go and use to buy maize and store. You get the point? Yeah. They need somebody to have the maize. When they need, they call you, bring the maize and supply. But to create another platform where they are producing maize or storing maize, then it's going to add to the cost. So somebody who has the feed should have his feed. The poultry farmer has his chickens. The chickens will eat. He orders, you bring. It's an industry. It should work that way. But because of the frustration of prices, because of the competition with human beings eating white maize, and then the poultry farmers, that's why policy has to work. That's why some kind of interventions have to come in, because we need to really ensure that we are able to strive in what we do as a country to be able to have our protein needs.
Philip, I think the president gave 2 million Ghana cedis to poultry farmers for intervention. There was a substantial amount that was given to poultry farmers. I don't know if did it help.
Yeah, but 2 million to me is good. It's a gesture. But if you look at the poultry industry, you know that 2 million cannot really suffice the total to be able to stabilize the industry. So that is commendable, but more need to be done. If you do your calculations, you realize that that 2 million will do for just some quantity of chicken. So it's an initiative, and if that could be expanded, it's good. We do know clearly that this is a private sector activity, but for us to be able to stabilize our economy, we need to look at some particular interventions, because the amount of money that is being used to import the chicken in foreign exchange, if we can intervene to reduce that, then we are reducing our importation bill. Mm-hmm. So as if we are doing that, we are also going to reduce, create employment. Okay, so this is what it is, and it triggers down to everywhere, to a point that even the waste of the poultry is used back in the farms. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you realize how it's recycled. The farmers go back to the poultry farmer to pick the waste. So it's an industry that is more sustainable. Then we go to animal husbandry attached, because the waste from the maize will feed the animals. Currently we are burning the rice straw, we are not baling and stocking. We are destroying the maize stock, because we need to have equipment to bale them. We need to have an intensive livestock. This is a private sector activity, but there's a need, because the sector has become weak. We used to have the animal husbandry. It's at the ministry's wing, but they had a part of it that they were producing, livestock, like a cattle development board, and to a point that they even have a corn beef factory, Volta corn beef, but it's also a state agency. But they were able to have cattle, they slaughter them for meat, and the rest is used for corn beef. Okay, so we need to look back that now, though we have lost that, we can bring it back. We can look at it and do what we call PPP. Once the private sector is weak, government will partner.
But is there enough people with the interest to go into the industry? Are there?
I can tell you that there's enough people in the industry. Those that are already in the industry want to continue to work in the industry, because definitely that is where they belong to. More want to come in, because if it is not lucrative, why are we importing and people are eating? So much containers come and it is finished. It means there's a market here in Ghana. But we are eating somebody else's production. Ours, we are not able to do. So if we do it, it means we don't even need to struggle for the market. So the issue is finance. The issue is finance and appropriate technology to support.
Philip, as a country, what do you then do? Do you sit back and say, okay, we're going to take chicken, probably sheep and cattle, and that's where we're channeling our energies, or we're going to take maize, cocoyam, and cassava? That's what, because it looks as if everybody is just planting anything. Should there be a policy so that we narrow it down and get a speciality? How does an agric industry work?
You see, we have what we call industrial crops. We have industrial crops. Then we have normal crops that are for our day-to-day use. So if you do a program that you want to have reduce the rice imports, and currently, as it states, it's about almost getting to $1 billion or $800 million and over dollars used to import rice into Ghana. We have the valleys there. We've done it before. I'm a rice farmer myself. At the time when I was farming rice, I was doing 3,000 tons per annum. That's what I could harvest from my farm.
3,000?
3,000 tons. That's a quarter of a ship. That's what I could do as a rice farmer. In fact, part of it won me up to district level to a national level. So I know how to produce rice. In 4 months, you can harvest rice. In Ghana, we can harvest rice even 3 times a year. So we have the competitive and comparative advantage to be able to do that. But what rice needs is that rice needs good seed. Rice needs good land preparation and inputs like fertilizer. So, and then it also needs timely harvest. So what it is that you need to be able to have everything as a value chain. The finance should be available at the right time. The inputs should be available at the right time. The land preparation at the right time. Everything is timely, because within 3 months or 4 months, you must harvest this rice. So if we even take 1 year and decide that we want to grow 1 million tons of rice, we can do it. But the issue is that we need the money.
Philip, since
we are not saying we need the money.
At the email, we've been going up and down, but you're making it sound so simple as if it's possible. I mean, to the layman, it looks like it's a very technical and difficult venture.
What is technical? Rice was defined when it was found as grass. Okay? And any swampy area you have can grow rice. Especially you see, Ghana, we are endowed. Anywhere maize fall at your backyard, it grows. Tomatoes, it grows without fertilizer and everything. So it's like we are lucky. The issue is that we need to have find a deliberate attempt to do whatever is right. Because look, if we continue to import to feed ourselves, and where are we getting the money to even go? You have people from the village buying imported rice when the land is behind them. Tomatoes now currently, if you look at the market, I think you realize that all the tomato farmers who are growing tomatoes have relaxed. So we are eating tomatoes from outside. You remember in 2006 we were advocating, we had to fight to ensure that we try and get tomatoes grown to even feed factories and etc. Okay, so the issue is that government need to take interest. This is a private sector activity, but you need to take interest to ensure that where you will intervene, you will intervene. Okay, these are interventions.
What part would government play? Look, I'll buy the tomatoes from you.
No. We have an issue of infrastructure. Okay, so we talk about irrigation. You need to look at major infrastructure. You need to also look at a policy direction where you decide that, look, I want to reduce my rice import this year by 30%. And the triggers are such that I need my people within the agricultural ministry to provide this what is needed, what they need to be able to provide technical. It's not government to release money from budget to do anything, but they have a wing that supports industry. So if they are agronomists or any technical people that will support, they call it technical backstopping, those people must have the capacity to get to the field or must be able to engage properly to get it done. Now, two, there's a need for what we call, I told you, funds. And the funds can come from policy. If government decides to talk to all the banks and say, look, though I don't control you, okay, and you are able to give money, 800 million for importers to bring in rice. If government, that means there's a market. So if I have rice, first of all, we need to know what variety of rice do the buyers want, the Ghanaian consumer want. We already know. There's a perfume rice, which we are growing in our sanctuary. So all we need is government can invest in supporting the seed industry, because people will need seed. If you want to grow rice, you just need the seed, and if you don't have good seed, you won't get good harvest. So government can say, look, I am going to release, let's say, $10 million or etc. as my decision to support seed. So I will support so that we have good seed. So that can be an intervention, because then secondly, so that is it. The people who say that, look, we will want the banks who are giving the money for importation, that we want you as a social responsibility, or we would reduce your tax, your annual tax that you bring to us. Okay, because the banks pay tax.
Yeah.
When you're able to do this in agric, perhaps there's tax free on the money that you are using. Are you getting the point to do agric?
Yeah.
And that will be our contribution. And we think that the interest, instead of being 35%, it should be 12%. Because what we have underwritten on that as an incentive of the tax covers that's our money. You would have paid us. Don't pay us, but make sure that it goes to this sector, to the rice sector. The buyers who are already buying rice will commit to the bank, they will buy the rice. The bank will release the money to the farmers to produce. The rice farmers will go and pick up the rice buyers will pick up the rice, and they will mill and pay the bank. Okay.
And then you get the cycle.
The cycle. So then that could start as a seed fund. You need to start from somewhere. But if farmers will have to go and borrow at 36% and they produce, okay, you realize that there will be a difficulty somewhere, because by the end of the year they have to quickly, sometimes if you harvest, you need to pay. You get the point. So we need to look at that. Then we need to also look at some kind of, once that triggers, and that facility for medium term, that the farmer can pick up the loan for 3 years, okay, or up to 5 years. The farmer can go and buy his tractor. Government doesn't need to bring a tractor. The farmer can walk to the bank. The same bank can finance the tractor on lease basis. That, look, you'll be paying so much every year. But then the buyer of the rice will say, then they tell the rice buyer, you need to collect this amount of money from this farmer. So he will take $50 every 3 months or every 4 months as my tractor for 5 years or for 3 years. And the tractor is insured. So against any damage or anything at all. So that will revolve, because government cannot dole public money and give to private people, but using the policy means, and then also the people themselves. The banks want to make money.
Let me just quickly announce this number. It's 0560 800 000. 0560 800 000. Send me a WhatsApp. You may be a farmer, you may be passionate about agric, and let me hear what your take is and how it is that we can get out of here. Philip, I think you're really opening our eyes to many things with regards to agric. We hear so much that agric is the backbone of our country. Agric is the backbone. I mean, how true is that? Because we are in the information age. Everybody's doing computers and everything. So why are we saying agric?
Every nation which do not have control over its food security is likely to be having some difficulties and challenges in its economy. It is a fact. Because if you look at the food bill, if you want to take naturally and look at in Ghana, you enter inside the marketplace and see the amount of imports from rice, tomato, and everything. Then you realize what I'm talking about. What we can produce here, we are importing 90% of it. And we say we have left it for our farmers to grow. Without, what capacity do they have when they don't have money? You get it? But we need to create that environment where the farmer, like I'm saying, government can intervene on only major infrastructure, the roads and the irrigation systems, and can also do, even industry on build, operate, and transfer when perhaps it is build, operate, and transfer, or even PPP with the farmers and even an investor, etc. Fine. But there are certain deliberate attempts that need to be made. Rice, for instance, government can invest in the seed only. Maize in the seed and say, look, I want to make sure that for 5 years, my ministry department, which is in charge of PPRS, which is seed is under, is going to partner the seed growers and have an administrator for seeds. And we are going to invest in this logistics to make sure that we have a vibrant, clean seed industry. So far as now, we have a commodity exchange, Ghana Commodity Exchange. Mm-hmm. People are going to come and trade on that exchange and say, look, I want 1 million tons of maize. So immediately they say that the banks will be ready to finance 1 million. We have an agricultural insurance currently. They will also come in and say, look, we are prepared to guarantee crop losses. Are you getting the point? Yeah. But the fundamentals is that if you have bad seed, you have bad crop. So government too has invested in irrigation. They have also looked at intervention. That seed is a delicate area, so we want to partner to ensure that quality seed is there, so yields will increase. The marketplace.
Once you're talking about quality seed, let me just quickly divert a little bit. Then this Monsanto business comes in. What's your position on that? Are you one that is very agitated and no, hold on, this GMO thing may not be good. Let's go for a more liberal seed.
The GMO thing has been played in a proportion that the history of it becomes distorted. You see, currently we have what we call hybrid seeds. We have the normal seeds and we have hybrid seeds. And hybrid seeds are genetically modified. I'll give you an example. We had this, locally, not that they are modified, when you say genetically modified, you take a gene of another crop and then add to another crop.
Yeah.
Like we have the protein-based maize, Mama Ba and Obatampa. They were done locally in Ghana by Ghanaian scientists. And they managed to put protein into maize so that when you eat it raw, it can even help you because of malnutrition. Okay. That's why Ghana, if you look at the report, we have achieved our protein needs. So people are not malnourished because of that science. But they took a protein gene from another crop and put it in that. Are you getting the point? Yeah. So what did they do?
They modified it.
They genetically modified. But what the issue has become is that it has moved beyond these hybrids to another level. We started.
Well,
I'm coming to the. You see, so this is. I'm just trying to the mango. We're having this our local mango. You understand? They took the mango and look at it, and then look at it that it was only some fiber, and they add flesh to it. Now we have, are you getting the point? You have oranges. When you cut the oranges, you see like it's watermelon. All those are signs that they are using to add, to do all this. Now when you come to GMOs, that is biotechnology, where they use another advanced technology beyond, because this things the scientists use his hands to do. Now it has gone to a point that they pick a gene of, let's say the cactus. You know cactus, I'm giving an example.
Cactus plant,
You know cactus there, you won't see animals eating or some insects eating cactus. So they take cactus gene that make the animals not to eat it and come and add to corn. So that when corn is there, the insects will not attack corn. But ideally now you are going to use heavy chemicals to have sprayed the maize. So another scientist pick up the cactus plant. You know, it's a poisonous plant. I'm giving this an example. And then he checks and realizes that, oh, cactus plant is very poisonous. And if one eats cactus, you could die. And even if you have some residue of cactus, you could have cancer. So then the food of thought is that, then if they have gone to take a gene of cactus to put in maize, won't people also get? Are you getting the point? So this is what is the issue. Are you getting the point?
Where I was driving to was that we seem to be, we are happy if the seeds are going to be owned by CSIR, or if it comes from here and it's our seed, then it's fine. But if the seeds are going to be owned by Mr. Smith or Mr. Jones, then we are worried about it.
I'm coming to that point. I have not even landed. You see, the issue of these GMOs that have come is that they started somewhere. And people were saying they will be the panacea of the seed industry. But the two issues is that the hybrid seeds, you could reproduce, the farmer can reproduce them.
Okay.
But with the genetically modified seeds, what they have done is that you cannot reproduce them. When you reproduce them, you will not have any. That means that you will go back and buy the seeds. So something has been done to a point that you must always go to the source. And so then it's said, then it means that after some time, according to everybody's thought, if we start planting GMOs and we now cannot reproduce and we leave our open pollinated and our normal local seeds, eventually we have to go to one source or else we perish. That is the food for thought. So these have become issues. Then other countries that have also, tested them. So it is a new technology that is coming. But as you have said, if the technology is applied here locally, are you getting the point? Biotechnology, it's being applied here, and you go to Binari, that's the atomic energy. They use biotechnology to radiate yams, and the yams will stay there for 1 year without getting spoiled. You are aware of it?
Yes, I heard of that.
So there's a lot. They use biotechnology to clean viruses from plants, so that they make them plant free and etc. So these are the issues. So if they are our scientists, and if this technology has come and they are going to do it here and make sure that if there is an issue, they can correct it here, why not? Because we are in a global world. But the issue of going to one source to collect seeds for us, and then eventually our seeds become extinct, is why people are agitating. And then also, another food for thought is that because of the nature of how the genes of the seeds have been modified, health-wise. But we have been taking vaccinations. So, we need to just allay our fears. And then just say, look, our scientists can do whatever they can do so that they can be in the world class of scientists. But they should do it locally. They should take our local seeds, which are even going extinct. We have some seeds like millet seed and other seeds that now, even we can't, they are getting, are you getting the point?
Yeah.
Some are they can take those ones and then genetically modify them so that they can increase yields locally. They can also take some of them to make them drought resistant, but it should be done locally. The technology should be applied locally. That one, I think, is good. But we seem not to want to have any import of one source of seed that we know that when one day we don't have the seed, then and so those are the issues that
I am of the school of thought that no, if you're going to do anything, do it locally. I don't want the fact that you have to wait for some foreign entity to, depend on the foreign entity for your seed.
So these are the issues that.
But let's quickly come back. Even though we started on this issue on bird flu, I just don't know. This man is just so well endowed with regards to agric. I need to tap into all his agric expertise before you go. My other issue is, if we are going to boost agriculture to the levels that we are talking about, see, at the moment, I can go into any bush, just slash and burn, grow my 5 acres of pineapple. You go to that bush, slash and burn, plant your corn. So how then does it grow? And everybody is expecting that the government to bring a road to my farm, a road to your farm, another road to his farm. How does it work?
We need to, that's why now we have a Chamber of Commerce for Agric. We have worked on social grounds for a very long time. And the setting is that at each time, whatever we are doing, we look at the social part of it and we don't look at the commercial part of it. And for overdependence of government. But the overdependence too came about from government's own attitude at all times, want to lead the industry. But in the ideal situation in other countries where they are they have an edge over us, is that the governments are behind their producers. Here, the government is leading us because they give the direction. Though we are doing the production, some of the issues are directed. So to a point, we need to get to a point, and I think we are talking. Poultry farmers are doing their poultry and they have a difficulty. Government can intervene in there. Maize farmers will intervene there. But go ahead and do the major infrastructure for public good. So the irrigation systems are put in. You look at prices of maize for consumption and rice is increasing. You want to intervene in it. You look at it. What is it? Is it because of fertilizer? So if it's because of fertilizer, should I subsidize the fertilizer or I should make subsidized loans? There are two ways. So if I'm subsidizing fertilizer and I realize that the fertilizer is not what it is in general, I say, okay, then I'll look at subsidizing credit facility to agriculture and ensuring that those who get that credit facility should deliver their food quantity to pay back those loans through the banks to my school feeding program. Okay? They should also deliver this quantity to NADMO. For government should also have interest, just like to buy grain. Across the world, the Indian government,
Philip, I'm going to take a quick break here and come back. But when we come back, one thing I also want to find, like with government intervention, and I take my little republic of Edumasa, there's somebody who's got plantain farm right behind the town. Somebody's got their pineapple farm a little bit up the hill. One is somewhere near the water. If government is to come in to irrigate, how do you do what? Irrigate here, move there, move there. How does it work? So stay tuned, I'm coming. Well, thank you very much for staying. The issue we're looking at was bird flu outbreak, and this was stemmed from the back of a story where there were bird flu in 2 farms in Tema. The vets went in there and destroyed the birds. There's no cause for alarm for 2 reasons. One, those who are buying the birds to go and sell don't want to buy any coccidiosis birds, so they won't buy. The farmers themselves are calling to report that their birds are ill, so there shouldn't be any panic. However, since the subject is agriculture, I thought let us expand it. And indeed, we have expanded it and we've learned a lot. Just before the break, I was just asking that in our quest to develop agric, we are always asking for government to come in. However, the majority of us have 1 acre here, 2 acre there, 5 acre there. With us, there was 60% of the population doing farming. How do you help?
You see, when it comes to agriculture, you have land, you need water, and you need good seeds, and you need the rest. And when we talk about irrigation, irrigation is a major infrastructure, just like road, and it's part of government responsibility to look at the major infrastructure and some other essential infrastructure that is for public good. So irrigation falls within that belt.
Sorry to intervene, I'll let you continue. So as chiefs, should we then say, look, we've demarcated this 100 acres. Everybody, you come and take your 1 acre, 2 acres. So we irrigate this section and then everybody comes to that section to their farming.
Let me give you an example. We have the water that runs to the Volta you know, from behind the Akosombo, and you have water running so many rivers across the country. Now the farmers they put pumps, small pumps, and the farmers are doing some pump irrigation, we call it pump irrigation by gravity. Now the community which farms is always just by the river, but they don't have the capacity to lift that water to use it for irrigation. So sometimes you go in the dry season, they are not doing anything, but the water is by them. So for public good, if government put a pumping station there and pump the water across the farms, just like how Ghana Water Company, I think they bring water to your house, is it? To our houses, and we pay. You can do the same service and the farmers will pay for that water because you have the capacity of putting such a service. So once water is running through their farms, they pay per meter. It's part of a new...
Isn't it too scattered?
No, please. You run it, the farms are, this is my house. This is my 20 acres. This, everybody, the farm. So you bring the major pipeline. Okay. As we are sitting in Accra here, the pipe comes from where? Pong? Is that not right? Akosombo? Yeah. Here. But it's distributed across the whole houses, everybody's house. Everybody, you have it. So the same can be done for agriculture. If really we realize climate change has come to play, the rains are now not going to come when you need them. There are issues. So if we don't start thinking to test the systems where we have enough water and say, look, let's do a project which will deliver water to about almost 50,000 farmers. And let them produce what they were producing once 3 times. You get the point? It's an innovation. And the farmers will produce because definitely the water has come. It's better than the farmers going to put one small water pump to be pumping small when you can it can be done by the district assemblies. We need to tap the water source. And when it comes to borehole water, you say we are scattered. Look, in every 2, 3, or 5 acres, they can, or 20, 50 acres within an area, you can sink a borehole. And then farmers will pay. It can even be a private sector investment. Farmers will pay and use that borehole. Okay, so private sector, not only government, can also look at that opportunity because agriculture is a business.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what, as a chamber, we are trying. We're putting something together and we'll have a bulletin. We'll let people know where the opportunities are to invest their money.
Quickly before you go, we've always talked about mechanization. We have about 60% of the population doing agri. If we mechanize, don't we make all these people unemployed?
The truth of the matter is that if we continue to have 60% of the population in agriculture, then our country is not developing. It's the fact. We need to have people, half of these people doing processing. In fact, some doing transportation, some into industry. We need to have about 20% at a particular point or even 10% doing the production. Then that's when we had advanced. Some doing the marketing. These are people into it. So once you trigger certain systems, some will move in various areas. And then the sector will explode because definitely you now have people mechanizing and using equipment. So those who cannot feed themselves will say, look, I'll go and be buying grain and selling. Others will say, look, I'll supply fertilizer. Somebody will say, I'll go and even spray the farmer's farm. Services will come in because just like the telecom sector when it came, we're very jittery or will not give our national sovereignty. When we gave up, look at the explosion. A lot of them, people are selling cars here. Mobile money. A lot of employment has been created. The agri sector needs to be done in the same way. Okay, whilst it's done in that way, those that are doing the mechanization, those that have gone out will go to other sectors of agriculture to expand the industry, and that will really make things work.
Philip, thank you very much. Philip Abayori, President of Ghana Agri Chamber of Commerce. Indeed, it has been an eye-opener. It has been an education, and I hope policymakers who are hearing will hear. Philip, I hope that we'll continue this conversation and look at other sectors. I know we had to consolidate everything, but we need to break it down and look at piggery and cattle and everything. And thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you very much.
And folks, as I always say, tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Have a good evening.
Thank you.